Welcome to the Market Mystics Podcast. I'm Joshua.
I'm Kim. Let's dive in.
Hello, everybody. It's good to see you guys. Kim, it's good to see you. The listeners probably know this, but we record on Mondays. And so it's like Kim and I always have a lot to catch up on. And if you're watching the video on Spotify or YouTube, you'll see my background's different. It's because Bree and I are house sitting for someone, and I guess pet sitting really more than house sitting for someone. And so I'm in a different office space than what I'm normally in.
That's fun. I have questions about house sitting, but I'm not going to bring them up on this podcast. But I do have questions about it.
Okay.
Just like etiquette or like norms.
Sure.
So maybe we'll chat about that. Maybe we'll chat about that in the weird episode too. I'll just bring it up and we could talk about that little thing. And then we'll talk about the real weird thing that we have planned.
Let's do it.
But before then, let's talk about something a little less weird.
Let's do it. So before we started recording, Kim and I were just like I said, we were catching up, and I was telling her a little bit about like the new job that I've been working, which now I've been there just like 2 months and a week, and so it's pretty new. And I was telling her like there's really like me and one other coworker that have any sort of like kind of spiritual mindedness. There is another one, but their belief system's just a little bit different. And so, but we were just talking about like how me and this coworker who do kind of think more similarly have been trying to be pretty intentional with the way we approach work and the atmosphere there. And we were talking about this on Saturday because Saturday was like a very high volume day. We had a lot of customers, did a lot of business, and really kind of seemed like everything really was flowing pretty well. And so I was messaging him and I was like, this is like kind of amazing. And like, I was telling him like, because we had talked about this on Friday. He and I had talked about this on Friday about how like we need to try to be intentional about creating this atmosphere because we're the ones who think this way. And so Saturday morning while I'm driving to work, I just put on some like normal worship music and tried to, I guess, like engage heaven and just really just kind of be intentional about like, okay, like, okay, God, what do you want from me in this place? How can I work with the coworkers who are challenging to me? And how can I like bring them into a place where it's like we're all working together in like harmony, I guess. Doesn't even mean like, oh, I need to like them and enjoy working with them, but like, can we work together as a team without it being like conflict? And so like, that was just sort of my mindset as I'm driving to work on Saturday. And then we have this amazing day on Saturday, which Saturday is generally like, it's, I work in retail now and Saturday is like the retail day. So it's like, not unusual that Saturdays are busy. But he and I were kind of talking about this, about like, man, like what happened? Like, why did today feel different? And I was like, well, I spent the last morning, like on my way to work doing this. And he was like, oh, me too, like very similar. And it was kind of interesting because like we were both processing this, like, this is the approach we've been taking. But there is also like practical, real outworking that's necessary. So like the owner of the business spends quite a bit of money marketing, spends quite a bit of time researching the best products to have and working with vendors to find the highest quality, and has spent years kind of cultivating the ground, building a reputation for the business. However, there's just some aspects that feel like supernatural in like literally beyond natural. Like it doesn't make sense, like logistically, how well things have been going the past couple months. And so it was kind of just this interesting conversation about like, it's got to be both. Like there is this, like, you know, he and I are really focusing on just being intentional about the atmosphere. And even if nothing else, the fact that he and I are thinking that way is, it's changing the way we see the other coworkers and the customers who come in the door. And that changes the way they respond to you. Like seeing someone different changes the way they respond to you. So I don't know if any of that makes sense, but that was just kind of the conversation we were having before of like, this is happening and it kind of feels like it's happening in two pieces. Like there's the very real logistical piece, and there's the like spiritual component.
Sure. I think it makes total sense to me. But I mean, spiritually, there's a concept of governing the spheres of influence that you have, whether that be your friends and family, or your home, or your workplace, or if you work in a government, or if you're in a town or whatever, right? You can govern these areas because you have authority in them, because you're an important part of those spheres, right? So I think spiritually, this makes a whole lot of sense. On the physical level, I think you're really doing something that is focusing energy into this flowing. So if there's anything standing in the way of that, or maybe just even a door that hadn't been opened, you guys are intentionally standing there and saying, yeah, we're here and we're waiting for this to flow, right? And I think that is also really important. Interestingly, I did not put that on the spiritual side of things. I feel like it's kind of in the in-between.
Sure.
It's an unseen part of this world, but I still think it's part of this world, the physical world. So I think spiritual intentionality, that government, I think physical intentionality, like honing in that energy. But I also think the component you were talking about actually making sure things are set up so that it can flow is super important as well.
Very much so.
Because when we talk about government, whether you are governing your home or your job or a nation, if all you do is think good thoughts, but never actually do anything, never actually take a step in that direction, it's going to be incredibly difficult for things to actually happen. Can you imagine a federal government wherever you live, whether it's the US or South Africa or the UK or China, whatever? Can you imagine a physical government who only thinks things, they might even say them, but never actually does anything, right? Like if I think we have a strong military, and then I say, you guys, we have a strong military, but I don't actually ever go through the process of setting up a military, it's really hard for that to manifest.
Yeah.
It's really hard for that to come to pass. And so I think all of those things, I love that you're sharing about it, because I think all of those things are the recipe for opening up for those things to flow and being intentional. And honestly, I've seen it happen where I used to work. I used to do very similar things. It wasn't so much about what I was focusing on, was never so much about sales, but it was about like people.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really interesting to see how dynamics that might be otherwise full of tension start to straighten out, and all of a sudden things are okay, you know? But I was also managing people. And so I really needed to see dynamics be working together and cooperating and not butting heads. Interestingly enough, though, and I think I'm saying this because I really think that you and your coworker, guess we're not saying his name, you and your coworker will wind up seeing this. But after a while of doing this, I had people responding because they could tell.
Yeah.
And it no longer was like in this unseen spiritual part, and it no longer was in this unseen physical part. It was then like there's something palpable. And we have a friend, Josh, who is not even associated with the place where I was working and didn't even know me then. But for years, while I was doing that, would be drawn to go after hours to that place and pray because there was just something stirring there. And he only told me that like after we met and became friends. And even then months later, he's like, you know, there's something about that place where you work. It's like, it's primed. And I'm like, that's interesting because I've been really intentional about those things.
Yeah. You know what's really interesting? I was just listening to a podcast last week, which I might send you because it was really fascinating. But they were talking about, it was more of like a societal political thing, but kind of a similar topic, like praying over a area to see change happen. Mm-hmm. And so this group of people got together and were praying, and their goal was like to pray for either 30 or 60 days. I don't remember exactly what it was. And there was like a known group of people practicing witchcraft who were opposing what these Christians were trying to do. Mm-hmm. And the approach that they took was like, we have to create division, or we have to create division, or we have to create disconnect within that group of people before they reach this 30 or 60 day mark. Because if they do, it will so change the atmosphere in this place that we won't be able to function here for like, it was like a set number of years. Like they knew that if this group functioned in unity for just a period of time, that it would cut off their authority for years. And I think like that's like when you're talking about our friend feeling that in that area, like you were intentional in this area for enough years that it was, you could feel it. You could feel the atmosphere was different. And I think that's just like it's a really powerful thing to realize that although, yes, it is both. Like in my situation in retail, it takes the management having quality products, having a quality brand and quality employees, but it also like there's this spiritual aspect that is tangible that you can feel that makes a difference that other people can feel, that makes other people want to be there and makes other certain people not be able to be there.
Yeah, for sure. I think I would say this too. I think it's very important what you put behind that. Because you could be doing things in the name of Jesus and be practicing essentially witchcraft because you're doing something that is in your own will. And I think when you're doing this, it's really important to make sure that you are tapped in, like fully tap in with, I would say with the Father. So whether you need to connect with Holy Spirit, who then connects with Jesus, who then connects you with the Father, or you connect with Jesus, who connects you to the Father, or you're already connected and then you connect with the Father, whatever, right? But make sure you're like staying in line with what his will is too. And I love that he gives us free will, but I love it even more when my free will aligns with what his will is. Because that's when you really start seeing things shift for a good amount of time. And when you really start seeing the favor that he has for you in it. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's kind of a fine line.
Very much so.
And I'm not, please don't hear in what I'm saying that I think you're doing witchcraft, because I know you well enough that I know that you do everything you can to be in line with his will. But I think that it could be very tempting to be like, well, I want a Ferrari.
Yeah.
Let me set the atmosphere for that.
Yeah.
Well, great. But maybe check your motives, right?
I think one of the things that can help separate that is, like you were talking about trying to set the atmosphere and praying over people. And when you're doing that from like a love place.
And peace and kindness and goodness. And
exactly. Like the atmosphere you're engaging isn't, I mean, maybe it's for personal benefit so that when people get along better, it's just a better place to work. Like maybe there's some of that, but it's not really for personal gain.
Right.
And I think like that's been something I've been aware of in what I'm doing with my work, because it is like it's easier to say, well, I'm doing this for sales, so it is for personal gain, which there's an aspect of that that's true. But like my approach has attempted to be less of like, oh, I hope that really wealthy person comes in and buys a bunch of stuff, versus like, oh, I hope all the coworkers like get along and like the environment is good. And so if you're praying, like the way I've been looking at it is like, if my intention can be for everybody's success, not just my success, then that's more in line with the heart of the Father than not. But it is a fine line, because you can't just say, well, this is for sure what he wants. He wants me to succeed and be wealthy. Well, he might, but at what cost? Like,
sure. Yeah. You know what else I was thinking about is another approach or another angle to look at this from, is to be asking the Father or the Lord, whoever it is, whatever you want to call them. I still have a thing about that, right? Okay. Let me get past it. Ask the Lord to bring in whoever needs what you have to offer, and ask him to open the doors and make the connections, and whether it is for you or it is for the entire store or it is for a specific employee who might be struggling. I don't know. I actually don't know the dynamics at your store, so I'm just saying things. But I think that's also a really great way to do that. I do that, and like I have a part of what I do that is selling things, but often I'm just asking the Father, like, can you either bring to mind or have someone cross my path that needs what I have?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be salesy. I just want to make a good trade. You know what I mean? Like, if I have what you need, I want to share it. But I also don't want to, I don't know, just shout from the rooftops and hope somebody hears it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like intentional selling, intentional client acquisition, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's like really where my mind's been is like, it's important to understand that we do have some level of authority in the atmospheres we are in.
Yeah.
But it's also really important that you understand that authority comes from being a son, and the understanding that you're a son has to first come through relationship. Like, and if you follow that path, like you're not a dictator, you're not a tyrant, you're not a manager, like you're a son, which means you got to that position because you're in relationship with the Father. Then you have authority in your Father's like realm to steward and govern.
Mm-hmm. I think that's when you start seeing people recognize it, not even know what it is, but they walk in and they go, oh my gosh, something is different.
Mm-hmm.
Something feels so good in here. I guess I make a practice of this more than I think I do. I'm unintentionally intentional.
That might be the best way.
Maybe it's just how I operate now. I don't know. I hadn't thought about it before that, but in my studio, my office now, I've had so many people walk in and just be like, whoa, what is going on? Because out in the hallway, I felt one way. I walk in here and there's so much peace and I just feel like safe. Not that it's a really nice building. But they're like many people have walked in and said things like this. And I'm like, well, thank you. I'm really intentional about my space. But it really is an interesting thing when other people start to notice. And it's not because it looks a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not because it smells a certain way. And I think you can set all those things up. But the real thing is when they feel it in something else, when they feel something of the Father when they walk in. Mm-hmm. I would say that there's some fruit of the Spirit that's like the air freshener. I don't know. It's the thing that people notice. There's some fruit. There's peace or patience or kindness or goodness, or there's some essence of Him.
Right.
That they go, oh, wow. I recognize something. Even if they don't know Him, they recognize His essence, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the key, is like we have the ability to create a tangible difference. Mm-hmm. And it all comes from your mindset around it. Because like if your mindset, like if I go into my sales role and my mindset is, oh, I want all the sales, that's a predatory spirit. And that's what people are going to feel when they come into the store and when they interact with me. And so like you can't approach it that way, because that's what comes off. It has to be like the mindset of like, oh, when people come in the store, I want them to feel like amazing, whatever. Like I want them to feel a certain way, no matter if they're working with me or they're working with a coworker. And if I want them to feel that way when they're working with a coworker, I've got to have a good mindset and intention towards that coworker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's super important.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm curious to know, because I think there are other ways to do this. I think it's all rooted in being tapped in, like, right, tapped in with the creator, the father, the Elohim, Adonai, whatever you want to call God, whatever, right? I think it's all being tapped in, but I think the outworking of it could look so different.
Yeah, it will look different for every single person. There's not one change. Like, I think, the place that's, I think it's in North Carolina, it's called like Moravian Falls. It's very popular in certain Christian circles. That place is like known as an open heaven because a group of people prayed there nonstop for something like 100 years. And that group of people wasn't like super charismatic. Like, from what I understand, they were, I think, like maybe Quakers, like very,
I think I've heard that it was Quakers,
like very traditional, probably reading the Bible, very simple prayers. But it's just like, what is felt now is the fruit of the Spirit from what they planted in that place. And it looked way different, but it feels very open and very similar because it was birthed out of relationship. It wasn't birthed out of, we want to change this spot forever.
Right. That's so good. That's so good. Yeah, I think people will recognize it. People will feel it, whether they're for it or against it. But mostly I think people will feel it because it feels like their daddy,
Yeah, I think that's it. Good stuff. Well, guys, if you want to hear Kim's question on house sitting or listen to a longer conversation on bending nature, become a member on YouTube and check it out.
Okay, but for real, you should become a member because there's so much bonus content in there. You guys, every week we do an additional episode. So it's like getting into the super weird, but also talking about crypto stuff. Some like how-tos, some like beginner stuff, some current event kind of things with that. Plus all of the bonus content from before. Like, I'm telling you, you guys should join.
Yeah.
You should totally join us, and we'll meet you over there.
Thanks for tuning in to the Market Mystics. If you are hungry for more, don't miss out on our exclusive bonus content available only to YouTube members. Demystify the world of cryptocurrency in the cryptosphere and explore everything from outrageous conspiracies to curious current events and out there spiritual musings. Nothing is off limits in Let's Get Weird. Become a channel member on YouTube to unlock these extra episodes. See you in the bonus episodes.